Welcome to Inside News, weekly update. I'm Serena. Today is Saturday, September 27th, 2025. This weekend, we bring you comprehensive coverage of the most significant developments from around the globe. This is our weekly deep dive into the stories that shaped September 20th through 27th, events that demand attention beyond the immediate news cycle. Our mission remains clear: to illuminate the complexities behind the headlines and connect you with the voices that matter most. This has been a week of profound political shifts, humanitarian challenges, and remarkable technological advances across 5 continents. From election upheavals in Africa to climate innovations in the Pacific, these are the stories defining our world. We begin in Africa, where political developments this week have reshaped the continental landscape. In Malawi, former President Peter Mutharika appears poised for a controversial return to power. At 85, Mutharika holds a commanding lead with over 2/3 of districts reporting results. This marks a stunning political comeback for a leader who was removed by the Supreme Court in 2020 for electoral fraud. The implications extend far beyond Malawi's borders. Mutharika's potential victory raises questions about democratic accountability in Southern Africa, particularly given his campaign's association with corruption allegations and ethnic tensions that have plagued the nation's political discourse. Meanwhile, a coordinated retreat from international accountability is unfolding across the Sahel. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger announced their immediate withdrawal from the International Criminal Court this week. The military juntas governing these nations condemned the ICC as an instrument of neo-colonial oppression. This decision carries severe consequences for justice in a region where jihadist violence continues to escalate. In Burkina Faso alone, al-Qaeda-affiliated groups released video evidence this week showing approximately 60 hostages, highlighting the humanitarian crisis gripping the Western Sahel. On a more positive note, West African security forces achieved a major victory against international drug trafficking. French naval operations intercepted nearly 10 tons of cocaine worth an estimated $610 million off the West African coast. This operation demonstrates the growing importance of regional cooperation in combating transnational crime networks. The week also brought significant progress in combating cybercrime. An Interpol-coordinated operation resulted in 260 arrests across 14 African countries. The suspects were involved in online scams, including romance fraud and sextortion, which have generated millions in losses for victims worldwide. Turning to Europe, where constitutional amendments and diplomatic recognition have dominated the week's agenda. Slovakia's parliament approved constitutional changes recognizing only 2 sexes while restricting adoption rights to married couples. The legislation has sparked fierce opposition from human rights organizations across the European Union. France witnessed significant symbolic developments this week. President Emmanuel Macron officially recognized the Palestinian state during his address to the UN General Assembly. This recognition triggered nationwide responses, with numerous French mayors raising Palestinian flags over their municipal buildings, despite Interior Ministry objections. The move reflects broader European shifts on Middle Eastern policy. Britain, Canada, and Australia joined France in recognizing Palestinian statehood, marking what diplomatic observers describe as a fundamental realignment in international relations. European security concerns intensified with renewed focus on Russian aggression. Veteran American diplomat Daniel Fried called for NATO to engage Russian aircraft violating European airspace, arguing that Moscow exploits Western divisions. This recommendation comes as Russia and Belarus conduct joint military exercises codenamed Zapad 2025 near NATO borders. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy received a 5-year prison sentence for criminal conspiracy related to Libyan financing of his 2007 presidential campaign. This conviction represents another chapter in France's ongoing struggle with political corruption at the highest levels. The European Union announced implementation of a new entry-exit system for non-European travelers next month. Americans and other non-EU visitors will undergo fingerprint and photo scanning when entering countries including France, Italy, and Spain. While designed to enhance security, the system raises privacy concerns and threatens longer airport delays. The Middle East witnessed dramatic diplomatic developments this week, centered on Palestinian statehood recognition and escalating humanitarian concerns in Gaza. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu avoided European airspace during his flight to the United States, fearing arrest under International Criminal Court warrants for alleged war crimes in Gaza. This unprecedented situation illustrates the growing international isolation facing Israeli leadership. The Gaza situation continues to deteriorate. Israeli operations resumed this week, resulting in dozens of Palestinian casualties, including children. Spain and Italy responded by deploying naval vessels to support aid flotillas attempting to deliver critical supplies to the besieged territory. President Trump made a significant policy statement declaring he would not permit Israeli annexation of the West Bank. This position directly contradicts demands from far-right Israeli politicians seeking to extend sovereignty over occupied Palestinian territories. Regional violence expanded beyond Gaza this week. Israeli strikes on Yemen's Houthis reportedly killed 8 people, representing an escalation in the broader regional conflict. These attacks demonstrate how local conflicts increasingly threaten regional stability. Despite these challenges, there are signs of diplomatic progress. Cross-border water-sharing negotiations resumed in Jordan this week, involving Israeli, Jordanian, and Palestinian officials. While no final agreement emerged, participants described the discussions as constructive. The Americas faced significant political and environmental challenges this week. In the United States, the Department of Justice indicted former FBI Director James Comey on charges of false statements and obstruction of justice. President Trump responded by warning there will be others, signaling potential escalation in political prosecutions. The corporate sector faced accountability measures as Amazon reached a historic $2.5 billion settlement with the Federal Trade Commission. The agreement resolves accusations that the company made it deliberately difficult for customers to cancel Prime subscriptions. Natural disasters continue threatening the region. Hurricane Humberto is expected to strengthen into a major Category 4 hurricane, while meteorologists track a second system that could develop into a tropical storm. These developments highlight the increasing intensity of Atlantic hurricane seasons. Brazil achieved significant environmental progress this week. Authorities reported substantial reductions in Amazon deforestation rates over the past quarter, citing stricter enforcement and community partnerships. However, experts warn that illegal logging remains a persistent challenge. The week brought massive protests across Brazilian cities against proposed amnesty legislation for former President Jair Bolsonaro. These demonstrations, organized by civic groups and opposition parties, reflect deep political divisions within Brazilian society. Violence escalated in multiple regions. Brazil's Maranhão state experienced deadly attacks linked to organized crime and land disputes. In Colombia, FARC dissidents launched lethal assaults in Cali and other locations, highlighting persistent challenges to the post-conflict peace process. Venezuela mobilized military forces in response to American naval deployments, intensifying geopolitical tensions in the region. These developments underscore ongoing disputes over natural resources and international sanctions. Tourism experienced remarkable growth across South America. Colombia joined Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and Peru in reporting visitor surges driven by promotional campaigns and post-pandemic recovery. This boom stimulates local economies but raises sustainability concerns. The Asia-Pacific region experienced one of the most destructive natural disasters of the year. Super Typhoon Ragasa devastated multiple countries, beginning with Taiwan, where it killed at least 17 people and caused widespread flooding. The storm then struck the Philippines, claiming 4 lives and forcing evacuation of over 433,000 people threatened by floods and landslides. Hong Kong and mainland China faced airport closures, flight cancellations, and economic disruptions, including postponement of a $3.2 billion gold mining company public offering. Climate experts emphasize that such extreme weather events are becoming increasingly frequent due to climate change, requiring enhanced regional preparedness and international cooperation. India faced violent protests in Ladakh, where thousands demanded statehood and constitutional protections for local communities. Generation Z protesters clashed with security forces, leading to the burning of a BJP office in Leh and 4 deaths from police gunfire. Prohibition orders were imposed to control escalating tensions against the central government. The Asia Cup 2025 cricket tournament provided regional unity amid political tensions. India defeated Sri Lanka in a dramatic super over, requiring just 2 runs from 1 ball to advance to the finals. However, Pakistani players sparked controversy by mimicking military gestures during celebrations, highlighting underlying geopolitical tensions. Maritime tensions intensified in the South China Sea around Scarborough Shoal, where China used water cannons against Philippine vessels. The United States and Britain responded by conducting freedom of navigation operations through the Taiwan Strait, prompting angry responses from Beijing. North Korea declared its nuclear status irreversible this week, marking a significant hardening of its position against international pressure. This announcement coincides with intensified missile testing and rejection of dialogue offers from the United States and South Korea. Fiji activated the region's first major tidal energy farm, representing a breakthrough for small island nations combating climate change. The underwater turbines now supply clean, reliable energy to the main island of Viti Levu, reducing dependence on imported fossil fuels. Regional markets experienced significant volatility following President Trump's announcements of pharmaceutical tariffs. Japan's indices fell sharply, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng dropped 1.4% due to high valuations and tariff concerns. China's technology sector showed recovery through artificial intelligence investments by companies like Alibaba. This week's events remind us that our interconnected world faces challenges requiring both local solutions and international cooperation. From Malawi's democratic test to Fiji's renewable energy breakthrough, from France's diplomatic recognition of Palestine to North Korea's nuclear declarations, these stories shape not just headlines but human lives. Behind every statistic lies a community seeking security, prosperity, and dignity. Behind every political development stands individuals working toward better futures for their families and nations. These connections matter because the people living these stories matter. Our commitment at Inside News remains unchanged, to bring you the context that helps make sense of complexity, to amplify voices that deserve attention, and to illuminate the threads connecting events across continents and cultures. The news never stops, and neither do we in our mission to keep you informed about the stories that truly matter. Thank you for joining us this week on Inside News Weekly Update. Until next time, good journeys to all.